All right, good morning, good afternoon to the HBAR students. So again, welcome to this is going to be your holiday, your Easter holiday, weekend slash Monday lesson, right? We recorded, and we are still, and we're going to continue for again just a little bit further, but longer, with the on-air element and understanding, how to again just unpack that, own that. What I'd like to do today is do half of lesson. Well, I mean, the first part will be the first section of lesson 27, and then the second lesson will be the second part of lesson 27. In between, I'm also going to continue with our practical, right? So the practical that I've been putting up here with the different sections. So the on air in terms of like content wise, the interviews, the promotions, and we had already done the taglines. There's nothing really more we can do with taglines until we actually look at production, which I'll come back to that a little bit, the actual audio editing and the production, like I said, the sound editing, applying your sound editing skills to creating imaging for your own show and for the station, which is something that you do have to do in preparation for your on air period. So the semester two on a practical, right? Okay, so in lesson 27, we are going to be looking at your research, circling back to how it applies to building a mission statement, right? And a vision statement, and how we can obviously direct that to what we do on air, because we are busy with on air stuff, right? On air content or context on air context. And we'll also be looking at your attitude, I suppose, your attitude, your professional approach, so your work ethic, right? What you need to be applying at the end of the day on air, in terms of how to construct the way that you speak, what you speak about, and again, kind of that direction to make it a little bit more clear. All of this, if you are obviously following the lessons and we are doing the practicals alongside it, you should be getting a better understanding at the moment, a little bit more comfortable with what we are, or let's say putting pieces together, and segments, etc., for your on-air shows. In terms of using the research, obviously we've been covering that a lot throughout this particular semester. You are busy with your formative one right now, which obviously is giving you a much clearer understanding of applying that research and market research that we have discussed in terms of doing those surveys, doing the research, doing the focus groups, doing the AMTs, defining the composite listener, etc. And we've been talking about it on and on and on and on repetitively throughout the lessons because, again, knowing that particular audience or target audience, target market is how we are obviously at the center of building anything and everything around our station brand. So, market research can reveal information that you know about your audience, right? It will reveal information about your audience, and again, doing it correctly. When I say so, doing it completely correctly, in terms of positive, so instead of as opposed to false positive results, will then yield like a good foundation to be able to make a business decision, base a business decision, knowledge-based decision, on the data and information that you have gathered, right, and put together. Right. So when we know the audience, imagine the composite once again. We are led to create content that's full of surprise and discovery. Greatest element of great content or great radio is the ability to surprise, right, the listener with something new. Again, we don't want to hear things that we've already heard a million times before, but if we have heard about that particular thing, right, before, we're going to hear a new angle, a new dimension, a new whatever update, whatever it may be, right, on that particular piece of content or that conversation or that chat with this particular person, whatever it may be, right? A cool, fun promotion, immersive experiences online, whatever it may be. We want to be able to build something new, nothing predictable, stereotypical, or stereotypically done before. Meeting and exceeding audience expectations by delighting them is more powerful than the usual and the expected. Right. Okay. It's obviously about captivating the audience and keeping them, remember, quote unquote, distracted. Right. Distraction is the level of distraction, right? And obviously the duration, I suppose, of distraction also then equals the quality of that particular piece of content, right? And that is entertaining them. Research projects have revealed the following conclusions about the radio audience. One, they don't remember all the stations that they listen to, right? So the human brain has 7 slots of short term memory. Your job is to grab just one slot and print it to a long-term memory. So how do we do this? Obviously, with let's say on the basis on the surface, we would continuously brand the radio station repetitively with IDs, um, you know, stings, jingles, whatever it may be, right? But also, IDing the station just in terms of the verbal aspect. So jocks that are on air are constantly bringing in the name of the station, its tagline, strapline, its ethos, whatever of those into what they are doing constantly. Also, what we're doing online, not to forget that, is also exacerbated by the want or the need or the must, the mandatory um, directive of, like I say, spreading that imprint on our listener's brain. Right. So that we want to be able to make sure also that one, and things at that surface level, the second way is making radio memorable, right? So memorable, valuable to that particular listener's life, because then they will remember it and make a point of wanting to put it in their little cache of memory, right? So, cluttered environments, there are far more entertainment options than a listener can consume, and personalities need to find a way to reach an attention challenged audience with content that cannot be replaced or it can't be duplicated. Again, a surprising factor, right? A refreshing approach is how you achieve this. But obviously, good construction, bit construction at the end of the day, and then a great execution, right, of that particular piece or your show just in general. So again, just taking that from you are also a listener, consumer, right, of every single day and what it brings to you in terms of what you want to process as information or entertainment, any one of those infotainment umbrellas. You are very selective, as everybody else on this planet is. You can't consume everything, nor do you want to. It's just too much, right? And it's of little to no use to you. And us as presenters and as a station need to go and cherry pick those particular lanes of interest for um, that listener, right? Let's look at how we can. So, Mark Ramsey is a futurologist, right? So, he's a radio futurologist out in the States, does a lot of radio intelligence, and is quite famous for it as well. So, what's radio intelligence? It's like thinking beyond what is the norm or what is currently being practiced within our industry, and then going to go and propose new ways of doing things, new researched angles strongly, I say professionally, is it a subjective, I suppose, right? Because also leaders, I'm saying in futurology, right, futurology, excuse me, right, would have to also make stands in what they believe, right, and it's got to obviously make sense. But again, new constructs in the way that we think. That's Mark Ramsey's one of the many radio futurologists in the world. So, a bias against talk on music stations, listeners tend to identify talk as negative and music as positive. Music may have, or maybe 85% of the reason listeners tune in, around about the 80%, as we keep seeing in research, but it's only 25% of the reason that they actually stay, right? 25%. I want you to look at that, put that into perspective. You are, and what you do on that show, so you and your work, right, is what keeps them listen longer, right? They will not stick around for music that they possibly don't really know. uh, they'll like every single song that's going to be coming. They will not miss out on music because it is you can find it anywhere, and the station will play it again. If you are only consuming or you're only one listening to one station, whatever it may be, right? You can find music everywhere, but we can't really find a very unique personality and what they offer us in terms of like a product um, anywhere else. Constantly take those water breaks, right? Researcher and radio industry veteran Mark Ramsey points out that there are at least two kinds of morning shows in the world. The one folks know and the one obviously that they don't. This is how they operate, right? The show people have heard before has latitude, right? That the new show actually doesn't. So it's got some advantages, right? The better they know you, right? If you're the host the most, the more the more they like you, should I say, and what you have to say, the more liberties that you have to skip songs and entertain the masses with your brilliance, right? Because they're already comfortable with you. They You're not taking advantage of them. You're just giving them more and more and more of what they want, and so they like that, and so they like you, right? The less they know you, the fewer liberties that you can take. New and less familiar shows often sound better than the familiar and highly rated ones, right? Why? Because they're a lot more polished and there's a lot more kind of like that a nervous awareness, right, from the presenters and I said the broadcasters, right, to make sure that they get more people dedicated to that particular slot, right? So they're building a brand, they're building an audience, and that's why in general it will probably sound a little bit better because of the finished product. So these established morning shows build equity over time. New unknown morning shows need a bridge between things that people know, love, and expect, music, information, and different other elements, etc., and things that they don't know yet. So, for example, the personalities. So, finding a good common ground between the two, something we build up over time. You have to earn your own way across the bridge, right? You earn their trust, one listener, quote unquote, at a time. The right to talk is one that must be granted by the audience, and they'll only do that after they've gotten to know you. So if you try all talk on a new show without the bridge that you create, you're going to erect a keep out sign with for any potential listeners. It's just going to not be great. People are not going to enjoy that. They'll just make the simple choice that I don't want to be part of this particular quote unquote club, right? So there are stages that allow listeners to get to know you, spend time with you, enjoy your company, and eventually choose to commit, which you've done in previous years, right? So, according to Tracy Johnson, just to refresh your memory, that kind of, that different introduction, I think it's growth, maturity, and then decline phase, which you're familiar with that. That's again, it takes a lot of time, right, to be able to go from one phase to another. Right, but what else are you going to do? Do your job, right, and enjoy it, and that's part of the process. Be glad that you are on air and that you have the audience, whether it be small or big, that really wants you to be there and really like you for what you can offer, right? Right. Listeners don't listen to you so much as opposed to they actually hire you to get a job done, right? They are saying we trust you with our time, we trust you with our loyalty, I suppose, the potential loyalty we might actually give to you as well. We hire you, right? Listener will hire you, and you have to reapply for that job every single day when you do a show, every single show that you do because again, we say that again, you're only as good as your last link, your last show, right? The job changes depending on the day, time of day, even the hour. If you think of the audience this way, you can create the show to obviously fit the needs of whatever that listener's life requires or is made up of, right? Again, that constant connection, if you're constantly landing within the center of their lives, they're going to be like, well, why shouldn't I listen to this person, right? It has to do with me. It's definitely something that I can absolutely apply as infotainment to my life, my situation, right? and who I am. And so, I like it, I'll say, as opposed to nothing at all, right? So in radio, listeners higher stations by mood. Right. So if I want to, if I'm in a phase in my life, could be a couple of months, could be a couple of years, it could be a stage in my life as well. So it could be whatever. It isn't a 30s, 40s, 50s thing. It's where you are in terms of your mindset. You want to maybe choose talk radio, and it's something that you need in terms of what stimulates you, right? Or you might choose music radio and many of its different formats. So obviously, again, its elements and the way it's constructed on each station because it suits obviously what makes you feel better. When you make a lifestyle choice, it is about obviously adding value to your life, kind of that growing that value in your life. So if you match the mood that they seek, they're going to obviously hire them. They're like, cool, we like this. We want to go on. Let's continue our journey together. All right. All programming elements contribute to the mood, including quality of commercials, positioning elements, station voices, so much more. And again, the way that we put them all together, as we have discussed before, in the clocks, right? And why that is also, why once again, it is important and how everything is coming together hopefully for you as you walk through, like I say, these different lessons and now seeing everything's being makes a bit more sense as opposed to these individual independent islands of information that you've been building up over the years. Moods can then range from happy to angry, informative to carefree, serious to light, whimsical to edgy, right? So you will base the mood based on what that particular listener is well, it's expecting, is going through, is um, is open to, reacting to, because again, that connection is made and it's not foreign to them, right? And again, we can put all moods are again expressed in ads and commercials, competitions, promos, whatever it may be. The way that we balance and rotate, for example, elements in music, the type of voices, so the station voice, both on air, I'm saying presenters, teams, etc., but also branding. I'm saying so the station voice itself, actual father or mother, right? The king and queen voice. And then again, how the show's obviously put together. Listeners may have a station that helps them relax, one that gets them going, so party mode or inspired, motivated, whatever it is, informed. One that puts them in a mood to party. There we go. One to make them think or want to challenge them as well. And this could be an exploration of, variety, right? Which a lot of people also want, right? And obviously know where to find it on air. So an inconsistent personality has difficulty finding traction because the audience is alienated. So one day you're up, one day you're down. But the thing is, it's not contextually. So you're not being yourself at the center and not adjusting to what what like reading the room, quote unquote, right? Reading the room and saying, okay, like this is a sad piece or a serious piece, or it's a fun, it's a fun night, or it's an eventful day. Like you got to be a person, obviously, but your personality can't sit and change up, down, left, right, whatever it is, because then you're unstable. So and that isn't just as a personality, which is something again that we feed from a stranger's point of view or consume from a stranger's point of view. And as a person, and if you see that in a real life, right, in your real life, and someone is all over the place, yeah, they're everywhere, you're going to be like, I don't want to be around this person because they're too much work, man. And also, I don't know like, why must I adjust my feelings and my tone or whatever based on this erratic human being, right? Listeners feel exactly the same. So they're just going to be like, whatever, man. Um, Move on. So, you will not connect to people if you're inconsistent, right? Decide on who you are and then build up on that, obviously. and become a more confident, holistic presenter, right? Based on like the obviously the core of who you are. Content should not be predictable, but delivering a consistent mood is essential, right? So it looks like it's contradicting. It's not. Like you will be able to gravitate or, like I say, move through, right? Particular moods, if you know how to, like I say, if you know how to kind of chameleon your way back and forth in different situations for different people, different conversations, and whatever the situation is calling for. All right. So useful information is more valuable than news. So obviously we see the value in news, traffic, weather, sports, fundamental parts of like a personality oriented show. They will always be important. They'll always be valuable because it's information and truthful. It's facts, right? Facts that we consume and we want and we need. Like we expect that from a show, right? From a radio station. But when you're prepping, right, and you give them stuff that they can use, that helps with their train of thought, changes their lifestyle, changes their relationships, changes their work ethic, whatever it is, right? Mental health, awareness, whatever. Right? They're going to be like, obviously I like this. I like that you made me feel uncomfortable enough to feel comfortably to move forward or to grow comfortably, right? Through Although content on mobile devices is challenging traditional media, sure, right? So digital research still indicates listeners expect content that they need to plan their lives. Again, that kind of that ownership and that empowerment, right? Any one particular person that even received the most randomly well executed information, right? Um, it will say, this is cool. I enjoyed that. If I enjoyed that, and it doesn't mean anything in my life. So we had this cool little feature, it was a cool little piece that was fun, it was light, and I genuinely, man, I'm a little, that I'm better for it, right? It's good enough. It doesn't always have to be, again, one or the other, black or white, right? On either spectrums. It is anything that makes an impact, once again, on the life of that listener. How will your news stand out from the rest? How does it enhance your station personality? Personalities offering their perspective, commentary, or discussion about the news is a point of distinction, right? So we have you there to make sure that you fill in the blanks, right? That train of thought, that unique perspective, that unique input, just to put it all together, right? Of what is already out there. And again, like constructing it in a fresh, new, and entertaining way. So we know that nighttime hosts, American nighttime hosts, late night shows. Back then, John Stewart was very big. Obviously, I think we have, who is that? Uh, what is his name? I want to say Ricky Gervais, but it's not that. Jimmy, let me just put his name. Uh, Jimmy, not Jimmy Carter, Jimmy Fallon. There we go. Jimmy Fallon is one of them. Obviously, we know Trevor Noah is another one. Um, and there are a few these late night show hosts, right, that are super. They've got great comedic timing. They're very obviously informed, obviously very well produced show. But the connection that they build every single night, right? The late night shows they build with the audience, and obviously the shows are news centered. So the interviews that they do have are not just celebrities, but they're celebrities in every kind of sect that a person has or is in their life. So from political to sport to movies or whatever it may be, right? Actors, influencers. Right, anyone of interest, right? But again, the late night talk shows are really great to Not, please don't model yourself on anyone, but a really good example of how a very, very strong personality, magnetic personality, ties in with the product at the end of the day. So many use him as their primary source of current information. So so John Stewart, back when he was hosting a late night show, um, and in building a show strategy identity, what news means to their audience at the end of the day. Okay. So when we look at the research, we want to be able to say, okay, great. Uh, let us let us apply what we have learned through quantitative or qualitative analysis data that we have received there, effectively reflect that in what we do on air. So we need to we turn that data into actions that are required uh, to interpreting that information. So obviously we need someone that knows how to interpret information and then translate that into something useful and applicable to the station, right? Regardless of the format, experience level, or popularity, here is what the audience is going to demand at the end of the day, right? I'm going to go through a couple here. Simplicity, first and foremost, because we want to be able to consume something we understand or not confused. It mustn't be overinflated. It mustn't be messy. It mustn't be many, many things, right? Anything but simple. So the short attention span, because also they're passive listeners and they also have to create theater of the mind, it is a bit more challenging for radio, like an audio platform, right? To be able to make that connection. So we have to make the connection fast, make them obviously keep them stimulated correctly. Links need to be very clear. What you are saying to them needs to be simply put or executed. It doesn't mean we cannot, again, um, uh, commit to complicated or complex or very rich types of content, even be very kind of expert, field oriented. Every aspect of our lives can be tackled or talked about, or spoken about, or whatever it is, or introduce a person, a listener, right? But it needs to be done very simply, right? So that they can follow along with what you are saying. Personalities may think that they are understood, but must be careful not to overwhelm the audience. With too many things also happening and a link, it's all over the place. Ah, man, just keep quiet and because now they've lost track. Listener fatigue is usually a result of too many ideas in a break, right? And avoid moving too quickly from one topic to another. Spend preparation time developing depth and multiple angles instead of finding more topics, right? So, busy, a show that is far too busy is exhausting. You also need to be able to sit and balance out, for example, admin links, so breaks between content piece to content piece, so that you can tease correctly, give them a little bit of breath of fresh air or a moment to breathe, the listener itself as well. And then you will sit and you will, like I say, build that show for a good balance, right? That again stimulates, commands attention, commands a call to action, but then also, right there, also gives them a bit of break, plays some music, and then carries on, right? One reference, so memorable personalities may appeal to consumers with multiple character traits, but are usually remembered for one thing, right? Whether it's a stunt, a feature, or a character, find something and be known for it. Like, who are you in this listener's life, right? Things that you do on radio, right, obviously on your show will reflect a lot of who you are. So if you are this kind of positive person, 10 to 1, you're going to have quite a few things that run quite easily and naturally and organically through the way that you speak, the people that you speak to, the way you interact with the listeners, and also the content that you put out on air. Don't be obviously at one trick pony, but the thing is that people always do remember other people by their, let's say, their top characteristic, their top personality trait, right? Um, you're going to come across an infinite amount of different people when you are obviously producing your shows and executing your shows. You have to be like a center, right? Consistency. the way people have expected you, right, to be, and your show to be, and the station to be, will be how they want to, or they expect it to be tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So you've invited a certain construct for the club, right, that they can join. They're going to sit down, metaphorically, right, or quite literally on their side. Who knows what they're going to do on their side? Stand, sit, dance. I don't know. Work out. But they're gonna join your club, right? They're gonna keep entering the doors of your club every single day when you do a show, and they're going to expect kind of like the wallpaper to be the same, the drinks to be the same, the vibe to be the same, the host to be the same, right? So you can understand in terms of that metaphor. So many personalities give up an idea just before it resonates with the audience. So take time for listeners to discover a show. And that's to say you must not drag it out or drag this out and drag it out and be mysterious consistently and never that don't be exhausting. Again, begin to like and fall in love with what you are doing, right? From its basic, like its infancy stages to its, I don't know, like I say, it's kind of like uh best point, highest point. I don't know when you are, yeah, like the highest climaxes in your growth or whatever it may be. Any one particular point, right? Just know that you need to be very passionate about what you are doing. So put everything that you got into your show and your listeners, right? Okay. Generally, successful segments should be programmed at the same time, the same style. So, for example, the features. David Letterman, also previously, but very famous, very, very successful, many, many years on another late night talk show, performed the top 10 list at the same time every single night after night. We have massive celebrities that would co-host with them. It'd be very super funny, very funny, right? And everyone loved the top 10 list, right? So it's usually a mistake to move features from one time slot to another, right? Just as an example of consistency, right? And hoping to attract an audience tuning in at another time. Not good, right? You can attract them with other things that make your show. The new audience isn't familiar with the segment, and the old audience misses something that they've come to obviously expect. So you're building nothing but frustration here. When personalities drop a long-standing element, the audience has to find new reasons to stay tuned, to commit to, and to fall in love with. Once again, memorability comes from familiarity, right? When popular features disappear, they are reasons. Move that to the back there. Sit back, right, for a listener to disappear as well. Let's move along with our train of thought. So, surprise and brevity in this slide. Surprise, stagnation is one of the greatest challenges to successful shows. So, when you get too comfortable and it becomes too predictable, you are stagnating, right? Right. You're just on one plateau and you refuse to move forward. So, it gets very boring very quickly, right? Those features that have had their time, right? That make you famous can prevent personalities from actually appealing to a new generation of fans or even growing themselves, right? So, programmer Kevin Robinson uses an example from behavioral psychology. So, as food is dropped to a lab rat near a level in their cage, they slowly learn to circulate where the food appeared to originate. And when they do, the lever is tapped, their behavior rewarded, etc. Right. So, which obviously training behavioral patterns, right? But the rats begin to link the lever, they connect it to obviously what they want, which is the food. They tap the lever, they get the reward. However, when the reward regularly is given to them on a very high basis, they really get bored and they actually stop responding because they've also full, man. They don't care, but also they need to be stimulated, right? Rats obviously super clever. Um, Hence why they obviously use it in a lot of experiments or whatever it is or research. When the consistency of reward is altered, leaving some taps on the lever unfulfilled, the rats remain stimulated, right? So changing it up, okay, is very important, right? Changing it up within a consistent expectation of you. Consistent doesn't mean repetitive, okay? Lab animals and humans respond better to immediate stimulation and reinforcement rather than sustained rewards for effort. So the trick is to know how the original behavior has been learned so that rewards can be distributed to unpredictable intervals, right? And what is a reward? It's not always just giving them something, I'm saying literally, we're giving them something that is, again, stimulating them. It's surprising them. They're liking it. They're enjoying it, whatever it may be, right? Unexpected, constructed structure, right? Is how we approach great, like I said, great potential radio products. Okay. Brevity means saying saying as much as you can with as little time as you need to say them, right? So on air, you need to keep your links structured and quite short. All right. So like on average 3 to 4 minutes, but we always say if you're talking 30 seconds of rubbish, right? And it's all over the place. It's not. There's nothing that you're saying. It feels like an extremely long link. It needs to end. And if you talk for over 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever, but it's so entertaining and it's so useful and it's definitely it's stimulating again at the end of the day. Like people won't feel it. At the end of the day, even either or with those situations, right? So let's say we take a longer link. Your brevity means you're literally saying everything you need to say without saying more about it, right? So self-contained constraints, right? On self-con, I think it's about cons, and constraints. Yeah, that looks better. Self-constraints are better than content over several segments, right? Um, so since listeners tune in for short periods and have a limited attention span, topics must be reset. Let's say when you do come back, let's say to another link that has the same topic, same content piece, you have to again recap in an original, captivating way. Um, sorry, that's what happened there. It's self-contained bits. Excuse me. Anyway, right. So self-contained standalone also, but we can't always do standalone segments. We are going to have ones that stretch out over 40 minutes maybe. Right. But again, it's an opportunity to bring new listeners into the conversation every time you do continue with that particular piece, right? Never assume that your audience has been listening for more than a few minutes at any one given time in your show. So if they tune in at 7 past or 12 past or 28 past, whatever it is, right? Like they are in the next 15-minute interval going to be entertained, caught up on, brought up to speed, whatever it is, and also given a reason to stick around, right? Um, okay, nearly done with this particular part. So when we are introductions. Okay, so find the entertainment value and get to it quickly and clearly. Long setups won't cut it. Watch CNN's Larry King. So you can go and find some great, obviously, endless amounts of videos of Larry, who's such a great, iconic presenter, right? And notice how he doesn't waste time on the intros. He just gets to like he says, this is a person here and he goes to one massive, one great massive hook, which is the intro to um, um, that particular interview, sets the temperament, sets the mood, and sets the expectation for what type of interview. You're going to get some quality here, because Larry does it best, right? Okay. Anyway, notice how quickly he introduces the guest and then asks that powerful first question, which is what you want to do. Let's not waste time on you can go follow them here. Here's their very boring background. If it's unless it's necessary, we can bring in background. We can bring in dynamics for that particular person throughout our line of questioning as well. Many, 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 many different options and avenues that you can go to increase the quality of your approach to on air. Look at other people. So, sports talk, Dan Patrick is a master of setting up a topic, and with his talent for word economy, finds the payoff, right? Word economy is brevity, right? So, word economy means we're using as little words as needed to say the most as possible, as yeah, the most we can, right? He doesn't allow small talk. He ignores the "How are you today" chatter and gets to the relevant conversation. Another example is Kevin Robinson, who's listener eye. So it's about making listener eye contact. That special magic where the talent seems to actually be speaking to only one listener. You want my attention? Is the clock ticking? Then give it to them, right? The internet has turned everyone into content skimmers who absorb material in bite sized pieces. So, bullet points rule over long essays, and this should affect every personality's approach to presenting entertainment. Master the art of brevity, control, and conversation, and direct the content. So, a helpful technique is to prepare by starting at the end of the bit, right? So, kind of knowing where you are going, then obviously prepping backwards so that you know that what you're putting in your prep is directly aimed at that that end game there, right? So if you know what your point is going to be, the whole point of wanting to do this particular piece or this interview or this whatever it may be, right? Call out, you know how to prep that particular link from start to finish because you've got the end game in sight. Let's look at controversy. So dealing with controversy and creating controversial content is a winning strategy. It backfires when you became the controversy, right? So it's fine and all to be a shock jock until the shocking the center of that shock is you, right? Then people are going to just leave you in the lurks. They're not going to support you, right? So Rick Dees once said, taking the audience to the scene of the crime and placing a weapon in their hand, but stepping away at the right time to avoid committing a crime is how you approach this, right? Another way is looking at a frog, right? So a frog in a pot of cold water, and the way that you will cook that frog if you slowly turn up the heat, right? So you're going to get a cooked frog. But if you put a frog in boiling water, it's going to jump right out. What you want is that little boiled frog, which is your listener, right, to come with you along the length, right, and along the content piece. And you're going to give them that opportunity so that they can quote unquote just jump on in. They're not shocked at all. They're not offended at all. And they're the ones that are going to take it home, right? Jerry Springer's television career involved his guests in very controversial situations. We remember the Jerry Springer show. It's so good, right? But so tacky. It's so trailer trash, right? But that was the whole point. It was about really putting these like super, super, super polar personalities on in these very ridiculous situations, right? Um, and there would be mass conflict almost immediately, right? So Jerry's show was controversial, but he was not. He would sit there and he would mediate that entire thing, and he would push them one to the other, without them ever getting angry at Jerry. Well, okay, they did sometimes, right? Because they were just like volatile human beings. Anyway, identify. So when too many personalities compete for attention, important information is lost, right? So you also are a very insecure person if someone is sitting, or so personality, if someone is sharing the same mic as you, quote unquote, like in the same studio, you've got a co-host, you've got contributors, whatever, but you now must always say something because you're insecure about your position and your importance in that show, right? We don't compete against each other. Everyone is different and they offer different things. And the sooner you know your place, the better you're going to be at your job, right? Listeners can't track the characters and chaos obscures content, right? Okay. Again, who are you doing it for, yourself or for the listener? When character development is impeded, roles are not developed. So roles must be distinct and offer diverse contribution. New characters should be introduced with a strategy to reinforce the role that they play. Okay, I think it's I think it's quite clear. Let's look at the last one for this particular lesson, and then I want to show you um, one of the interviews from Larry King, so you know why you need to be such a massive fan, or it's so easy to be a massive fan, right? And then we will look at this exercise to begin the next lecture. All right, listener focus. You can always hear the audience pledge their love for you, right? If you talk like they talk, not like a DJ, right? So avoid the big words when smaller ones are actually going to do the job. Don't patronize. Talk about things that they actually care about. Show enthusiasm for their interests, passion, dedication, presence, right? Respect their time and priorities and deliver on the promises. So your teasers on time. When you say we're going to do this in at 12 past, like do it at 12 past, right? Tell stories so that they feel smart, clever, or informed and have a point of view about events in their life. Just quickly pause the recording so I can just get the right video up. Okay, let's watch. I'm gonna play through an interview here. I really enjoy it as well. I'm going to share the sound there and let's watch it. Right. Okay.
On Larry King Now, rapper and activist Killer Mike.
If I'm strong, my greater community is stronger, right? The black community. My neighbors are stronger because I take care of my yard, I pay my taxes. That helps my street. Because my community is stronger, the greater community is stronger, and America is stronger. We could work harder. We could progress further, faster. James Baldwin said, I think in 86, 87, like, how long must I wait? My father waited, my uncle waited, his father before him. How long are we waiting? I think we can progress faster. What I'd really like to talk to the president about is what are we going to do for prison reform?
It just did a major bill.
It was okay, but it's not as good as we could.
Plus, I've been a civil rights advocate all my life.
Yes, sir.
What can I do?
You can find a black business to support. And you can also build bridges across cultural divides and befriend someone who doesn't look like you and let them inform you for how to be an ally in your local jurisdiction.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Today's special guest is Killer Mike. Mike is a Grammy-winning rapper and one half of the Grammy-nominated hip-hop duo Run the Jewels. He's also an outspoken activist who's used his voice to address a wide range of issues facing the black community and society at large. His newest project, which does just that, is a 6-part Netflix docuseries called Trigger Warning. Trigger Warning is getting great feedback. How did this start?
Well, it started with me in the 4th grade wondering things, Children ask questions, and oftentimes adults tell them to be quiet. So if you look at the White Jesus episode, that starts from me literally asking my grandparents, why is Jesus white? If he was able to go to Egypt and East Africa and his lineage comes, that doesn't make sense. The people who are there don't look white. And usually you just tell a curious child to be quiet if you don't have the answers. But my grandmother would tell me stuff like, read. Go investigate. And
did you bring that to your rap music?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So what led to having a project?
I befriended a guy named Daniel Weidenfeld. We're friends. And he and I have been talking about this show for about 10 years, trying to make the type of show that will raise those type of questions and generate these types of conversations. And we got an opportunity from FX to demo it. It was a little too polished when we did it at FX, and we said we'd like to take what we did here around and have it stripped down, and we ended up on Netflix. And here
Is it you talking?
Yeah, I made the pitch. Daniel and I and the guy named Vernon wrote it together. A guy named Vikram directed it. But yeah, it's me. It's my idea.
It's not rapping. It's talking.
It's talking. Okay. I sing and dance pretty good, but I like talking.
Here's what Salon said about the show. Some of Mike's philosophies are rooted in comedy. After all, it's entertainment. But all of his ideas originate from something so rare in today's society, common sense.
Yeah.
Acknowledging the lack of common sense is the only way I can justify this government shutdown, our president's entire political existence, and the failed American systems we continue to let run our lives. Do you think all systems have failed? Don't you think there has been progress? Despite this president and maybe this,
I tell my trainer our progress when I lost 2 pounds. He says you could have lost 20 by now if you'd worked harder. You know, we could work harder. We could progress further, faster. James Baldwin said, I think in 86, 87, like, how long must I wait? My father waited, my uncle waited, his father before him. How long are we waiting? I think we can progress faster.
What do you make of the current divide in this country?
I think what Chomsky says is right. I think that we're given two polar opposite things to argue about, and we're given a wider range of space to argue, however radically those things, but we are not allowed to pick tertiary or things that are outside of the box as answers or solutions. And because of that, we're losing an opportunity to really progress the human race faster.
Now, I'm told that trigger warning addresses issues like affecting black people, business and commerce,
Yes.
the black community, education, religion.
Yes.
Are you passionate about all of those?
Yeah, and they affect us all. Like, I want people to understand, I as an individual first must be responsible for myself. And then I'm responsible to the greater community, right? So if I'm strong, my greater community is stronger, right? The black community, my neighbors are stronger because I take care of my yard, I pay my taxes, that helps my street. Because my community is stronger, the greater community is stronger, and America is stronger. This country, my grandfather was born in 1922, about 11 years before you. My grandfather says that at a time when he was 20, 21 years old, if he went to a doctor, it was a black guy. Went to a dentist, it was a black guy. If he went to a grocery store, it was 100th Street Grocery, it was black owned. Everything, he could turn his dollar in his community 7, 8 times before it got out. After integration, when we started to integrate our money with bigger corporate interests, what we did was dissipate our individual power. And because we did that, everything suffered. Our economic stability suffered. Our homes suffered because parents were no longer getting married, because a man's not going to marry if he can't sustain a family. And then we started suffering in terms of things like jobs and school. And it's gotten progressively worse over the last
Worse? Isn't economic stability better?
No. Atlanta is a microcosm of America. It's a black city, right? Ran by black people. We have the most Fortune 500 companies of top 3 in the nation. But we're a microcosm because our wealth poverty divide is virtually the same as America. So we've been doing exactly what the bigger country's been doing, even though we're a chocolate city. We can't do that same model. What Dr. King talked about his last 3 years of life was the beloved community, the ending of war, the eradication of poverty, and the upliftment of the poor and working class. We as a society within the black community and the greater community are not doing a good job of that. We all could progress a lot quicker.
So how do you explain a black president for 8 years?
How do I explain a black president for 8 years?
Yeah.
I explained it when you elected second one. Until then, we just had a black president for 8 years. The community has something to be proud of in Barack Obama. But we don't have a black Jesus hanging on the wall. We don't have black institutions that are talked about and revered like Harvard and Yale. We don't have a dominant economic force like, say, a nation like China, or that Chinese or Vietnamese communities have been able to build here. So having a black president was a beautiful thing. It's definitely a ceiling I never thought I'd see broken in my lifetime. But if that's all we have, then that's still not enough.
But if I had told that 4-year-old boy who asked about Jesus that there will be a black president when he's still a young man, he wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah, but it was more conceivable to that 4-year-old boy because he had seen a black mayor. I've never known my city not to have a black mayor. I've seen blacks in leadership my entire life. Andrew Young, Maynard Jackson, Shirley, Bill. I've seen black people be in leadership, so I've seen good black politicians, bad ones. My black president was a great symbol. As a president, he was a decent president. But what I would like to see is actual power and progress for my whole community. And I think that the way we do that is return to keeping our dollar in our community, is return to historically black colleges and university, is return to living in black enclaves where other people have to visit your enclaves and start to spend money there.
That's Malcolm X.
Absolutely.
All right.
And more so, it's Elijah Muhammad and Marcus Garvey.
In the final episode of your series, you want to create your own country.
Yeah.
Like where and how we do?
Well, Jordan Peterson talks about, before young people are telling people to radically change the world and change the government, to first clean your room, right? So I decided to try to organize my house and room and organize actually a country. It's a very difficult endeavor to organize a country, to say the least. And what I saw in organizing my own country is that the people who are outside of New Africa, who are activists and fighting against police and police brutality here, once you gave them the opportunity to police and be the policers and enforcers, they acted similar to the people who they rally against here. What I found is that the people who are most different or who we look at as weird or somehow shun here, that when given an opportunity to be in society, those people who choose not to stay in step and to walk their own path are more patriots than they are antagonists, and they're to be celebrated. So it even calls me to start to look at things differently, to start to say, hey, maybe that guy standing on a corner yelling that we're the wrong way, maybe I should listen to him more and listen less to the people who are talking to me through TV with an agenda.
So your own country be a state
Yeah,
in this country.
Yeah, it'd be a country in this country.
I know him very well.
Okay.
You put down David Dukes. He was supporter of Hillary Clinton. I would call him a moderate Republican.
Yeah.
What happened?
What happened to Donald Trump?
Would you like to meet with him?
Yeah, I'd meet with any U.S. president.
What would you say to him?
I'd say, what are you doing with my money? I'd say that there are better things to do than a wall. I'd asked also for Dr. Ben Carson to be in that meeting because I'd like to know what's going on with HUD.
And never hear about him.
Yeah, how did I hear about Carson?
No, I never hear about him.
Yeah, you never hear about him, and I'd like to hear about him. I'd like to hear some real progress being made on HUD. What I'd really like to talk to the president about is we have since 1937, around marijuana laws in particular, and around drug laws, we have made it virtually legal to be an addict in this country. We've fought a drug war that's slanted to the side of racism. I'd ask him that what are we going to do to start to correct that? What are we going to do for prison reform? What are we going to do to retroactively allow people who've served 20 and 30-year sentences for minor drug offenses from when they were 19, 21, 22 years old? What are we going to do to reacclimate these people back into society? And how are we going to change our prison system to be more one of that rehabilitates people?
They just did a major bill.
Yeah, it was okay, but it's not as good as we could. We could do much better.
When we return, we'll talk politics of the day with Killer Mike. And later, we'll even get an update on his music career. He still's got that. The Netflix series is Trigger Warning. Stay with us.
Hey.
We're back with Killer Mike. The series is Trigger Warning on Netflix. We just...
I'm going to stop that over there. Very cool. I could have on many occasions, just because once again, you can see just captivating, great conversation, so controlled, man. Obviously, this is Larry in his much later years before he died, but completely coherent, competent, whatever it may be, right? Man is a legend. Anyway, so just having a look at kind of how simple it looks, right? Slick, it's beautiful. There's just this control, authority. I am in love with Larry. Why not? You can say it, right? Man, it's just so good. Go check out Larry King, as you can see there on YouTube. I'm going to even subscribe now. But it's the wrong account, damn it. Anyway, whatever. I will subscribe with my other account. Okay, I'm going to just quickly stop that share over there. Right. Oh, right. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll continue with the rest of the lesson in part 2. Again, this is lesson 20. What is it? 27, right? 27. Part 1, part 2 for the Monday. Okay. Monday public holiday. All right. See you next